Hello, cooking enthusiasts. Welcome to Clueless Cooking 101. I'm Tammy, and today we're going to be learning Clueless cooking tips. In our last episode, we baked a chicken. And today I'm going to show you what you can do, because I'm sure the chicken was delicious, but I'm going to show you what you can do with the leftovers, and also we're going to make bone broth, which is very simple, but it does take a little bit of time. So this is the Dutch oven. Here is the lid, and we're going to use the lid. I forgot to say the last time when we baked this chicken that it's really essential to have the lid on to keep it kind of steaming and moist. We want to do the same thing when we're making bone broth. We want to cover it as much as possible. So one of the things about, these are kind of like aromatics. These make the broth taste good and smell good. And of course, you know, onions and garlic and all that stuff are really good for you. So here's something that is where you get an option. This is called a bulb of garlic. And when you, let me get the trash out here. It's got a bunch of skin on it. And you actually have to take the skin off of it like an onion. But when you get down to the actual garlic, there are these cloves of garlic. Oops. And they actually come off of the whole bulb of garlic. And I'm going to say, let's use 5 big ones, because we like that garlic flavor. And I think the term is it infuses the bone broth with the essence of garlic, which is great flavor as opposed to using salt. Because broth, chicken stock and chicken broth, they're known for being very high sodium. So we're not afraid of salt, but we're not using salt for our flavor. We're using these aromatics. So right now I'm cleaning this garlic. It smells divine. And I'm not going to chop it into little pieces, like some, you know, you can mince it or whatever. But I'm going to just like cut it into pieces that are big enough to make your hands smell good. Throw it in the stock pot. We're going to saute that in a little bit. Last clove of garlic, because we used 5. We're going to do the Izzy thing, where we smash it and clean it and take all the skin and all the outer stuff. It didn't work that well this time. Wonder why. Next thing, get 1 whole onion. This is going to be medium to large. So we're taking the skin off of this onion. I don't know if you remember Shrek. Shrek said that people are like onions, that they have lots of layers and skins. All right, so I'm going to chop this onion. It can be relatively big pieces. You don't have to do anything fancy. Oh, I love my sharp knives. Okay, the last thing that we're going to put into our pot to flavor our bone broth is celery. Let's do 2 stalks. The last time I went to Walmart, they were out of organic whole celery and celery hearts. So I bought, what did I buy? Celery sticks, but they are organic. And if you think that organic is a crock, because it definitely costs more, you can buy regular celery. I think that I have been told that celery is one of the dirty dozen, and it's one of the things that you always buy organic. So I've just been afraid to not buy organic. I'm going to chop 2 2 stalks of celery. And again, we're going to use that to flavor our bone broth. All right. Olive oil. We have to saute these things. And normally when I cook, I just squirt it in and I don't measure it. But I'm going to say, let's use 2 tablespoons of olive oil to saute these things. All right, turn it on high to medium high. While that's heating up and sauteing, here is, I label everything, chicken carcass for bone broth. This is everything that was in the pan, minus the au jus, the drippings, after we deboned the chicken. Here are the, I think the giblets or whatever comes out of the center of the chicken that I didn't bake. I save that, and this is one of the things that I cook in the bone broth, just to give it more flavor. I don't know if it really gives, I don't know if it actually has more flavor, but I do it anyway, because I don't know what else to do with this stuff. My neighbors don't want it for their dogs, so I just cook it. And then once it's cooked, then they'll give it to their dogs. All right. All right, olive oil, go away. Okay, we're going to take that spatula, and you know what? Since it's new, we're going to rinse it. Probably should run it through the dishwasher, because who knows where it's been or who's touched it or whatever, but that's all right. Smells so good. And when you're sauteing these aromatics, if somebody walks into your home, they're going to say the same thing. It smells divine. When my children were younger, my daughter would come home and just ask me if I would saute some onions and garlic because she loved the way it smelled. She wasn't really hungry, but she just loved the way it smelled. So hopefully this makes your home smell like you're on your way to being way more than a clueless cook. I'm going to go ahead and season the stuff that we're sauteing for flavor. And I'm going to get the olive oil out of my tablespoon, and I'm going to use a tablespoon of pink Himalayan salt. This is finely ground. I just keep it in this container because it's convenient, but this is not the container that it comes in. I just refill it. And then I'm also going to use 1 tablespoon of, if I can get it, of ground pepper, and it's organic. All right, that's what it looks like when you saute this stuff, okay? And that's the salt, pepper on there. It's choking me. I'm gonna drink some water. Okay, now, here's the part that is not very technical. We're going to throw in these organs, and we're going to throw in what was left over our chicken carcass, and complete with the lemons that we used to bake the chicken the last time. Excusez-moi. Now, here's the magic. I only use filtered water, only because I'm a little bit of a health freak. And so we're going to put in enough filtered water in this Dutch oven to cover the chicken carcass. And I'm going to guess it'll probably be about a half a gallon of, maybe more, half gallon of water. There's one. and I'll bring it over, but you'll see that one didn't cover the whole carcass and didn't cover everything in the pot. So however much liquid we use is how much bone broth we're going to end up with. So I'm going to do a half of one of these because that's probably going to cover, yep, it's going to cover the carcass. And I'm going to turn it back up to high because we want it to boil. All right, our bone broth started boiling, so I'm going to turn it all the way down to low, put the lid on it, stir it, just because that's what I do, and then we're going to let it cook for some time. But I am going to take one taste and see how the flavor is so far. Not enough salt for me, but we're going to let it cook because once the garlic flavor gets into the broth, it should be okay. So we've been checking on that bone broth and I tasted it, and in my opinion, it needs another tablespoon of salt. If you are very concerned about low sodium, you don't have to do that, but I'm all about the flavor and I'm not afraid of salt. So pink Himalayan salt, 1 tablespoon. I'm going to sprinkle it in the bone broth, stir it up. Taste it, of course. Nice. Way better. Do I think it needs another tablespoon of salt? Yes, but I'm not going to do it yet. Hello, Clueless Cooks. This is 2.5 hours later, and the bone broth should be done. And what I did while you were checking your emails is I tasted the bone broth, and it needed just a little bit something to get it over the goal line. I don't want to use any more salt, so I'm going to get out my secret weapon, which is better than bouillon. And so I'm going to take a tablespoon. I have measuring spoons here. I'm going to take a tablespoon of better than bouillon, and it's really kind of like just this gooey stuff. And the whole bouillon cube thing, I think, is ancient history. I don't think people do that anymore. So anyway, I'm going to get a tablespoon of this. I'm going to put it here in this bone broth. Stir it around a little bit, and make sure that you turn off your stove now. And we're going to taste it and make sure that the better than bouillon did the trick. So it did, just as I suspected. So what we're going to do is we're going to strain the bone broth, strain all that stuff that was in there, the chicken carcass, the lemons, the garlic, the stuff that we sauteed. We're going to strain all of it. And it's not going to make a real clear broth the way that like a real high-end chef likes, and I think they call that consommé, but I'm not 100% sure. But we're going to strain our bone broth, and it's super flavorful. The stuff that's left in the Dutch oven, or the stock pot, if you will, is really creepy looking. And that's the stuff that we're going to toss. Finally, we're going to toss out that. And I didn't buy a large ladle from the dollar store to recommend to you, but you probably will need a large ladle in order to transfer your bone broth into some kind of a container. And if you're using a plastic container, these are just glass reuses that I have. If you're using a plastic container, I would suggest just letting the bone broth cool a little bit more. Putting it in glass, it's quite all right. But plastic, not quite so sure. If I didn't already say this, I give my friends bone broth for gifts because they have almost everything that they need, but they don't have this liquid gold, this homemade bone broth that's so tasty and so good for them that I just put it in a gift bag Put my cute little Clueless Cooking label on there. And I label my work so people know what it is, because sometimes they forget. And when you refrigerate this bone broth, it's going to develop a skin on the top of it that is fat. I personally eat it when I heat it up, because I'm not afraid of fat. Some people don't like the idea, and you can just scrape it right off. Okay, and so here's one container. This was an eggnog with booze in it container from the holidays, and I've filled that up with bone broth. It's glass. Have this handsome Clueless Cooking label on it, and also chicken bone broth, and you can refrigerate it or freeze it. And in the next episodes, I'll show you how to use it. So that's it for this episode of Clueless Cooking 101, better known as Bad to the Bone Broth. And we're just giving you a basic ingredient so that in the future, when you learn how to cook other things, you're going to be a fantastic chef. Clueless Cooks, we'll see you the next time. Thanks for joining us, and happy cooking, and your friends are going to be very impressed.